Hi, Nakul. Lovely to have you
Hey,
on board. We're really excited to be having this conversation. Thanks so
thank
much
you.
for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Yogita. I'm extremely excited to be here. I am so hoping to take away a lot of learnings and, hopefully amplify this message as alongside learning today.
Okay, lovely. Nakul, we were so excited when you said you'd do this conversation with us because, as you know, Breakthrough has been working on the issue of domestic violence for over 20 years now. And since COVID-19 started, there's been this huge surge in domestic violence, and we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
there's a campaign that we've just launched called Unite Against DV, which is DV stands for Domestic Violence. It's a campaign in partnership with Give India. And the whole idea behind the campaign, which we'll be talking about over the course of this conversation, is that citizen action is really what's going to change how women experience their lives in homes, outside. And
Hmm.
people donate to this campaign by clicking the link in the bio, or they can just be really active bystanders and stop thinking that violence is somebody else's problem. If you hear domestic violence around you, intervene, do something about it. Don't
Yeah.
just walk away. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Nakul.
So, I want to put it out in the beginning of this that I am no expert on this field at all. I think Yogita, you're someone who's been working on this diligently, in a very disciplined manner, and I think Breakthrough's been doing some great work for the last 20 years. I am someone who's here to learn, here to have a conversation, and I think to eventually encourage more men to come forward and be part of this dialogue because. As much as we might think that domestic violence is actually a women's issue, I think that thought process itself is faulty to me. Just calling gender violence a women's issue is part of the problem. I think it gives all of us, men, boys, an excuse not to pay attention, an excuse not to be part of the dialogue, an excuse not to take action, and merely be bystanders and sort of watch it as headlines unfolding or watch it as things which happen to people. Uh, but you're not party to it, right? So I feel that I'm just so glad that y'all called me to give me a chance to learn through this. In fact, I'm going to start this with putting this out to you. So I've been reading a lot about how during this pandemic, how domestic violence is really shot through the roof. And I wanted to understand from you what is the reality at the ground level and what's going on.
Yeah. So domestic violence is, if you look at the data, 30% of Indian women face domestic violence on a regular basis. That's one in three Indian women across the country.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this is across socioeconomic classes. It doesn't discriminate. It gets hidden more, but it doesn't discriminate.
I think it's
Uh,
important you actually, sorry, you brought this point out because a lot of us, usually feel that this happens in the low economic, socioeconomic strata, but that's not true at all.
Not true at all. In fact, I have a lawyer friend who, in fact,
Mm,
my niece, she's a lawyer, and she's been
mm,
talking about how during COVID-19, the number of domestic violence cases she's seen of people from really affluent homes, and it's just this whole thing of being in a confined space, of being
right.
unable to walk out when your perpetrator or the person who's abusing you starts either emotional abuse or verbal abuse or physical abuse. Where do you go in a situation where there's a lockdown and you can't step out? So those are really big questions that
Mm,
uh, women have to face when they're victims of violence in a space that's supposed to be the safest space. So everybody talks about stay
home.
home, stay safe. Not so safe for a lot of women in India. So I think during COVID, we saw a 10-year high in the number of call-ins on the helpline.
Wow.
Yeah, and these would be women who actually have access to phone, who are brave enough to call in. We estimate that it would be much, much higher. So it's been, at
Mm,
least for us in the sector, it's been a really, really difficult time to even hear some of the stories that are coming out of it and to understand what confinement means for women.
mm.
So it's been very, very challenging.
Wow. So, yeah. Uh, Tell me, how does one? I mean, there is now awareness that, of course, this is on the rise like never before. Uh, how, according to you, can men, women both not just be bystanders to this, but be part of the solution.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to commit to saying that it's an issue that matters to me, whether you're a man or a woman. And I think men have to be part of the solution. We always think men are the biggest part of the solution. A lot of it is to do, and we talk a lot about norms, and violence is normalized. When your son comes home and says, "This child beat me," do you say, "Did you hit him back?" Or do you say, "Did you have a conversation with the person and did you resolve it amicably?" So often you hear people, "Maine to bola thappad maar ke aao," and feel really proud of themselves. What they don't realize is you're normalizing violence. So I think if we start questioning our everyday behavior and we start questioning how we bring up our kids, how we have conversations, uncomfortable conversations with our families and our friends, how we question sexist WhatsApps that reach us. If we can start questioning, role models that people look up to, and also hear violence around us, we actually intervene. So Breakthrough ran this campaign for many, many years. In fact, over 10 years, we ran this campaign called Bell Bajao. And Bell Bajao, I don't know if you've seen it.
I have.
Okay. So it's a campaign which basically invited people, saying that if you in the vicinity hear domestic violence around you, don't just stand around and say it's their private matter. Go ring the bell. Ask them if they've got electricity in their house. Ask them for a cup of milk. Just dissipate the violence. Intervene.
You're saying let them know that someone else is aware that this is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, in the heat of the moment, there tends to be so much aggression. That point of intervention can actually stop the violence in that moment. It gives you that moment to calm down, and also to tell you that you're not alone. People are watching, and you are being judged, because people are always worried about whether they're being judged or not. So and the campaign worked really, really well for us. We saw reporting going up by almost 30%. More women came out. People started talking about domestic violence. Otherwise, it was this thing which you kept quietly at home and never talked about. And suddenly everybody, it was okay to talk about domestic violence publicly. So that really changed, the way people spoke about it, and has been instrumental in a lot of our work. But I'd love to hear from you, Nakul, on any experiences you've had, and how you've dealt with it, friends, family. How do you deal with not just domestic violence alone, but the whole concept of violence against women in any situation?
I think, like you very rightly said, it's, one part of this conversation is how do we not be mere bystanders and what could we do now? But I feel the larger issue, and something we must talk about more, which I think Breakthrough does a lot, is how all of us as children sort of grow up with these notions of what it is to be a boy and a girl and a man and a woman, and why masculine is so different from feminine, right? And pop culture sells you like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, men like blue, women like pink, and a lot of things we sort of inculcate from, our families. And that could be men and women both. Like, I remember when I was growing up, I was told, it was considered, a boy thing to be strong, right? And I'm sure in all the good intentions, which is my family, they probably mean like strength in every kind of way. But I think culturally, what we sort of take back is strength means to be physically strong, to be able to run, to be able to protect and defend, which traditionally maybe, men are supposed to do, be the caregiver, the provider, whilst the women are supposed to be the nurturer. No more. I mean, I think those, gender roles and boundaries have completely changed, and especially with what we've experienced collectively in the last 120 days. There is no more responsibility that you go earn the bread and you take care of the house. You're literally doing everything together. So I feel a lot of things, which I probably didn't see in my 20s, I am seeing more now about my own sort of pattern of behavior, my own response to conversations you have within a private group of friends who could be men. Earlier you would think it's okay, if you're a silent bystander and you're not contributing to it, but laughing at it is all right. to, I think, now taking a lot more responsibility of making sure that, sexist comments, like you said, or jokes, don't get passed around like it's okay. For me, it's a start, and I think I'm learning as well. I've gone through my own curve, and I still continue and want to get better. I feel, just taking on from some of the stuff I have done, Yogita, professionally. I grew up wanting to be this hero because hero was meant to be this masculine embodiment of everything which is right in the world. And I ended up playing roles like those. Like, I remember one of my most popular roles on television was on my last show called Ishqbaaz. I was playing this character called Shivai Singh Oberoi, who's this very macho, out there, caregiver kind of a man. And there were lots of qualities about him which personally were slightly sort of moralistically problematic for me. But I realized that is society's impression of what a hero, what a conventional hero must be. And funnily, as much as I thought I am not that person, I think in a lot of ways, parallelly, I was being the same guy in person where, bravery to me meant not showing your weakness to others, not being vulnerable, right? Strength mean being sensitive, but keeping things to yourself, not asking for help. I think men don't ask for help. We feel that, like, you'll rarely see men ask directions or men ask anything, right? Because somehow you're supposed to figure it out. And, confidence meant that, projecting this false sense of bravado that everything is okay in life. So as much as I had issues with this character, which I was portraying to a certain extent, I realized in my own way, like life was mirroring, the work I was doing in a different way. And I think it's taken conversations with friends, with women friends, reading, educating, evolving, where now I've come to believe that, being brave means it's okay to be vulnerable. Being strong means you're sensitive and you're okay to have dialogues. Being confident means that you're okay to listen to the women in your life. And, and being man enough where you can stand up to casual sexist conversation which happens in, friends, which doesn't mean any harm, but, like standing up to it. I think it starts from there, and it starts from like really questioning what does being a man today really sort of, mean? Because, I feel society believes that, men have it easy in general, and which we do, I think. It's called a man's world. But the fact that we have to pretend to be people who know it all, who are on the top of everything, and we are in control of our feelings, we're in control of, our daily routine, that is exhausting, and I think for us to be able to accept this is the first step towards accepting that, I think, so violence in a lot of ways, when we speak about domestic violence, may not be, and you'd agree with it, I'm sure, is not just physical or just, verbal. But violence emanates from our thought process, right? So I think to even like break all these notions of what it means to be a man is a starting point for us to feel it's okay. Like courage and strength doesn't mean mard ko dard nahi hota.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's so important to actually have role models who can say this to you without it feeling like, you're not being courageous or you're not being brave or you're not being man enough. This whole concept of what manning up is so physical and so, strong against all odds that it has to crack, and that frustration has to come out somewhere. And it is just societal pressure, I think, because it's so normalized to have men looking strong, acting out, lashing out, the acceptance of it. one of the, and we chatted about this earlier also, Nakul. Really interesting to hear in popular culture. How do you think we could change this? How can we make, how can we create role models where people realize that violence, in some senses, is almost the brutish, not so clever thing to do. It's actually much, much tougher to be the one who's vulnerable, who shares, who's willing to talk about, the challenges. Lashing out and using violence, either emotional or verbal or physical, is not being brave or courageous or manly at all. How do we do this in popular culture? Look at our movies. Look at how they normalize violence. I mean, every movie you watch these days, there are so many scenes of extreme violence against women. That the occasional slap in a house or the occasional heated argument where you say terrible things over and over, that becomes okay. How do we change? What are your views on this?
It's a much larger conversation, but I think we're making a start already. Earlier this year, I saw a film which Anubhav Sinha directed, which had Taapsee in it, leading it, called Thappad. And I think that led to a lot of great conversation between friends. Some of them, even women, sort of looked at it and said, what was the big deal about it? And so I feel that the fact that today, filmmakers and storytellers, some of them have the courage to go out and tell stories like this, which stir a conversation. And we may not be able to change perceptions overnight, right? So I had like women friends who stood up and said, like, very few of them, but who stood up and said, like, why was she making such a big deal of it? I'm glad at least the conversations have started, and that got into a conversation where how women are it's considered normal for women to adjust in a matrimonial setup, right? So I think it's a slow process, and it will happen. It'll have to happen. All of us will have to find our own ingenuous ways, creative ways to talk about it, to show it through storytelling, to depict it by the kind of stories we chose to portray. And I'm not saying that I have been part of, I've made conscious choices like this, way in the past. But I think in the last 1 year, I can definitely say I'm very proud of the fact that I have made conscious choices. So I think about just exactly a year. Last year is when I worked on a short film which had an all women cast and crew, right? And I literally had nothing to do in the film, but I realized it was extremely important in principle for me to want to aid and be an ally to a project which has some wonderful women talent on it. For nothing selfish, I might get artistically out of it, but out of wanting to be part of the change. Earlier this year, I did a short film which is called Ved and Arya. It was produced by some great guys at Terribly Tiny Tales. It was about a sibling relationship where the man is this stay-at-home father, and the sister comes and confides. They have a beautiful relationship where she comes and confides about her, having her own sexual orientation. And the way it was treated and the way that dialogue happened was very compassionate, was beautiful, did not judge your sexual orientation and did not judge your gender roles perceived. So in the last 1 year, I would say that I've been able to, or I've been in the place to be able to make that choice. In the past, I haven't. But I think it'll happen when all of us consciously try to sort of, balance whilst we might do popularistic work. I think it's important to, as an artist, to find your own expression. It could be through writing, it could be through poetry, it could be through, the stuff you share on social media. It could be through many, many things. It could be through having conversations, uncomfortable conversations in family. Within friends, there are multiple ways of doing this, and I think all of us are accountable for it, especially men. I feel, whilst men are at the center of domestic violence and in a way are perpetrators, to women, to young girls and young boys also. I think there are a lot of men who deeply care, you know. But I feel now is the time when just deeply caring is not enough. This is an issue where which needs more of us men to, show the courage, show the strength, and the moral integrity to stand up and not be complicit of silence and not be and take action. I'm trying to do that in my own ways, I'm learning whilst at it.
Yeah. No, we definitely need role models like you who speak about this so candidly. I think you can also see all the hearts on the screen of how people are actually reacting to what you're saying. So it obviously is something that you're seeing a shift in, in popular culture, in conversations. We used to do a lot of work on domestic violence when we did Bell Bajao, etc. And one of the things we learned towards the end of our Bell Bajao campaign was that women actually said, so you're working with me, but maybe you should talk to the boys and the men. And that is when we actually started working with younger people. We started working with adolescent boys and girls to actually start looking at a way to change mindsets and to have these difficult conversations at an age when you're not, if things haven't ossified, when you haven't kind of defined your identity as this macho man or this completely homebound girl, but you can choose roles which are different. And we've seen huge shifts. For us, I think what keeps us happiest is young people. We really think that's where our greatest source of hope and inspiration lies, So if young people can question, why is it that, boys are given preferential treatment for education, or why their gender roles, like boys go to the army or boys are the ones who are, working professional. And when you look at the kind of, careers that are offered to girls, they tend to be very different, And why do boys all go into STEM courses and are engineers and doctors, whereas girls tend to be teachers and artists, questions, there's so many important conversations one needs to have in families. And, we have, and sorry to get technical about this, but we have this model which really says from me to we. And it says that when you start working with a person, you actually have to look at how you change, how the person's family changes, and then support community and then society. And it's almost like one person at a time. And how you're able to have those, difficult conversations in families, how you're able to role model, how can fathers role model themselves as people who, do childcare, don't, push their wives around, create alternative, narratives for young boys to model themselves on. How do you counter everything that's happening around you? I think those are the, interesting conversations that we're having. I'd love to hear some of the bigger influences in your life. Who we've seen, you on Instagram in the past, we've seen some conversations, and you're clearly somebody who has a point of view on this, right? You're not somebody who's going to just sit back and say, let it pass me by. I'm not going to intervene, or I may not know everything, but I will have I will, what caused that? What inspired you? Who are the people who brought this about? And what would your message be to people who are starting on this journey? Because for young people, if you have a home in which you have very hard rules about what a girl does and how boys are meant to be, and how boys are supposed to man up, and a lot of boys are beaten as we did a study in UP, and 70% of boys had faced huge physical violence in their homes, and they thought it was okay as well. So every transition they'd make in life where they were disappointed would actually result in them lashing out physically or, extreme verbal aggression, because that's what they've been taught. So what are your views, and what changed you? As in, what were the influences in your life that created this? Be interesting to hear.
Wow. Interesting to think about it, but a lot, to start off, I think very early on, my father is someone who, I think by example showed me what it is to, how normal it is to work at home, how normal it is to cook, how normal it is to go grocery shopping, to do vessels, to pick up not just your own plate, but pick up, like, clean up the entire table once the family's done. So when I grew up, it was extremely normal for me to do these things. And when I went to close family or friends, and I used to see that and especially with joint families, I think the women in the house used to serve, and the boys and the men and the older ladies used to sit neat. I've always been questioning that, right? It's something, but again, to think of it, the germ of why this is not right came to me from a man. I saw him do it, right? So I think my greatest takeaway is you can talk as much as you'd like, but you need to be an example to people around you, to your families, to your kids, if there are any. So my father was clearly an example to me. I think a lot of I think my greatest learning has been from some of the most exceptional, women I have in my life. I owe my career to mainly women. It's funny, or is it mistake, that most of the sort of landmark things I've done at work have been with a female writer, director, mostly producers all the time. Actresses who have, imbibed a lot from. So there have been, and subconsciously you pick things up from all of them, right? And like I always say, it's something I've said before, it's not new, but my role model wanting to be, or not my role model, but I wanted to be an actor, not looking at Bachchan or looking at Shah Rukh. But I saw Madhuri Dixit very early on in 89, and I think something about her grace, her demeanor, the dignity really appealed to me, and that got me interested in arts. I can't even point a finger at what about her, but there was something about her, right? And that sort of got me interested. And then I think in the initial years of my 20s, whilst I was still figuring out why I wanted to be an actor, besides the fact that it sounded right and it seemed the right thing to do, and people said you're maybe made to do this, I couldn't find a reason to do it, Yogita. I think it was the years when I faced rejection, the years when I had my own failures and own demons to fight with, is when I realized that being an actor is not just about showing up on set and saying lines, and it is a lot more. It's about educating yourself. It's about being aware what's happening around you in the country, around the world, politically, culturally, because as actors, you're not just a mouthpiece, right? You bring in politics, you bring in sport, art, the conflicts of the time, and layer that with the material you have at hand, right? So I feel there have been so many influences. It's kind of hard to point fingers, but I think the world around me always has been something I felt inspired by. And I feel that it's so important, like you said, like the reason I probably have a point of view on social media is because I may not know everything about everything, but I feel it's as not just as actors or artists, I think as human beings today, it's extremely important to take active interest in, to be a citizen who knows, who's aware, right? And I think through that, I think being an artist also makes you dive into emotions which ordinarily as a person who I am, I may not, because being the man I'm supposed to, or in my head I'm supposed to, I choose not to touch those emotions, but at work I have to, right? So somehow I am today trying to borrow inspiration from all those feelings I feel at work as an artist and bring it to the man I am. And there have been a lot of influences, right? There have been right from, I think, I practice Buddhism. That's Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism, which is a spiritual practice which talks about compassion, about dignity of life of every human being, irrespective of your gender, right? That is the basis of the philosophy. I think that in a lot of ways has changed the way I don't choose to be a passive bystander anymore. I choose to be actively, contribute and learn. I think spirituality has given me that. I think a lot of people in popular culture, I think on social media, who I learn a lot from. There's Trisha Shetty, who does some phenomenal work with her organization, she says. There is Nikhil Taneja, who has an organization called Yuva. Again, does amazing work to empower young minds. There is another actor in the US, Justin Baldoni, does, besides the work he does in television, I think is a phenomenal thought leader, phenomenal representative of what it means to be a modern man. There's Kunal Nair, the guy from Big Bang. I mean, all these guys are people who I look up to, and these are people I've sort of made friendships with or gotten to know them only through social media. And they've, in their own ways, contributed to my own ideas of, fighting for justice. So there are a lot of people, including your organization. Last, I think, 1 month since we've been talking, I've been reading up a lot, trying to talk to your team members, understanding, and I feel it is something we actively must do. I feel like I was trying to look up the board members of Breakthrough, and I saw so many women on it, and I saw 3 senior men on it, and I felt that it is how terrible it is that young men with voices are not being, agents of change. Every forum for domestic violence is led by a woman, while some man should be there standing with her or behind her, along with her and fighting for this. And I don't see any. So as much there is all of our, I mean, there are people to blame, there are men to blame. I feel I'm as responsible for not being, equally vocal or wanting to know more.
Yeah, that's a super message, I think, to men and boys out there, that they can be part of the solution and not, kind of treat it as somebody else's problem. I also think that the way norms work is that it's very difficult to really even identify when you've got, when you're thinking in a particular way. I give my own example. When I joined Breakthrough, I joined from a different sector. I used to work in the corporate sector. And the first year, I landed up having these moments where I look at myself and say, I can't believe I had all these regressive thoughts in my head, and they were just normal. And I come from a very liberal family. So I think every one of us, and this is one of the things that we really say to people when they want to volunteer with us or, want to become donors or supporters, is introspect. Think about, how you've been brought up. What are the messages you've normalized? Who does the work in your house? Who, so a lot of it is really about self-reflection, and some of these crazy notions we have about what men should be, what women should be. There's this crazy statistic in the National Family Health Survey, which says 52% of the women actually think violence against women is justified.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's scary, because what that means is that you've created a world in which violence against women is okay for everybody, for women and for men. Right. And how do you, you require some serious stopping and thinking about this, as a society, saying, what are we doing? And also, I think some of the work we've done, and we've had some of our most exciting work that Breakthrough's done, is really with men and boys. And we realize that a lot of this comes from some of the things you talked about as well. It's this need to always be successful, to be the one who provides, the one who, and the woman's role. A lot of it is about just the roles and how watertight they are. And you talked about the role you played, about men who stay home, as stay-at-home parents, and the kind of stigma they face, and the way society looks at them. And why is it that we've created these, watertight compartments saying, you can be only this and nothing else, and if you step out of it. And I think with women, because they're also physically not able to match it, if you step out of some of those boundaries, then the violence which comes as a backlash is just, it's disproportionate. And I think a lot of domestic violence survivors talk about the fact that they never questioned it for a very, very long time because they grew up seeing it in their homes, they grew up seeing it on their televisions, they grew up reading about it, and therefore it was just the way life was. And, until something happens that pushes them out of that cycle. And these are all sorts of people. There is no particular stereotype. So it would really be interesting to see how we can, and what your message, and again, coming back to young people, because we think that's our big, cachet of people who can change the world around them. Yeah. And also social media is so huge right now. And I'm so happy to see so many people tune in for a conversation which is fairly serious. We're not discussing a movie, we're really discussing domestic violence. And it's awesome to see so many people on here. And I'd love to hear a message from you to them saying, what would you like to see, as in what would if you had a vision 5 years hence or 10 years hence, what would you like to see changing around you, especially for young people?
Wow. I've probably said this once before, but I feel it's very important for young people, and there are lots of them, I think, on this conversation today, to really choose their role models wisely and not make necessarily pop culture or their icons from television, film, or sport to be necessarily a role model. I feel you need to look at it slightly more holistically than just being enamored by the work someone does. And I talk about this in all honesty about myself as well. I think, all of us are professionals trying to do the best we can and, whilst at it, earn a living. But I feel it's extremely important the kind of also being on social media, the kind of people you choose to follow. The kind of stories you want to sort of embrace in your life. I feel when you open your Twitter or Instagram, I've got to a point where I want to be following people whose thought or whose ideologies can make me a better person, right? And that may have nothing to do with, I find this person cute and I find this person did a fantastic role. I think that's something which all of us are trying to do in our own work. But I think as young people, just move away from being blind worshippers and being blind followers. Even if you really appreciate or like somebody, question their choices, talk about it, have conversations. Which I feel that somehow, the love we get, especially being in the entertainment, being the arts, is amazing, but it's never questioned. Your choices are never questioned. What you stand for personally is never questioned. I'd like more people, young people, to be more accountable. To hold their role models or people they really look up to accountable. So that's something I think we all must really look forward to doing, because only when you do that is when a lot of the people on the other side will start understanding, because it's very easy on social media with a certain amount of following, to impact thought process, to impact how people see things or judge things. But once you're held accountable for it, I feel there'll be a lot more responsibility. There'll be a lot more yearning to learn. There'll be a lot more wanting to be the best version of themselves, because no more can, just being, I think just serving the popularistic notions of your work will be enough. I don't know if I'm making sense. It's slightly convoluted. I wish I could explain it in a better way. But yeah, I wish they questioned more, and I wish they choose their leaders or people they want to follow with a lot more thought process and hold them accountable. No one is holier than thou, right? So yeah. And also, whilst they're there, also understand that these people they're looking up to are also evolving and learning, including their parents. I feel growing up, I used to feel my parents are my parents, so they're supposed to know everything without really being able to see that they're also playing the role of being parents for the first time. They're evolving, they are learning, right? So I think to also have that sense of compassion is what all of us must try to achieve, I feel.
That's probably one of the best answers I've heard to a question like that, Nakul. So
Sorry, it was complicated, but I wish I could explain it better. I just
to me, I think I have a teenage son, and I think I'm going to repeat this and say it to him because you hear, I mean, people choose all kinds of role models, and I think you have to pick and choose. My son's teacher once said to him, "Use a toothpick when you're looking at friends and people around you, and pick out the qualities you like." And I really,
lovely.
if you're able to identify what in a person really works rather than saying the whole package and just being
Yeah,
discerning about your choices, that is
yeah.
a huge message to young people. And I think in some senses I'd really like that to be like the parting message from us.
Mm.
I'm going to wind down this chat. I mean, we'd
You know,
love to.
before we sort of wind down, I feel I actually wanted to ask you, uh, how else can everybody on this chat or people whoever will listen to this later on, how can we contribute to this cause? I mean, of course, I know one is being an active participant. What else can we do to help the project or campaign you guys are running at Breakthrough?
So there are a couple of things we're doing. One is we're working, Breakthrough works across 3,500 villages. We work with local administration to actually make sure that, if there are victims of domestic violence, there is a support system and a network that intervenes and helps, ensures implementation of the laws. In Uttar Pradesh, for example, the government 181 helpline was just not working, and Breakthrough, through a lot of media pressure, was able to help kind of resurrect it, which means that women were able to, call on that line, and that required a whole lot of coordination and work. So some of this requires resources, and it'd be great if people donated. There's a link in the bio, and that would be great. But the other, I think, for us, really, the thing is that if people can become responsible citizens, and this whole thing of violence in someone else's home is not my problem, if we can it out from our mind, and if we can go out and evangelize, if we can talk to three friends about this, and
Wow.
not just ourselves, but talk to three friends each, that's a huge message for us. Citizen action is really what's going to change this country. You can have the best laws, you can try and implement them, but really, in the end, what citizens do is what defines a culture or a country. And unless people adopt practices like this, saying it is unacceptable that in 2020 women are
Yeah,
still facing violence and people are looking the other way. It is just
right.
unacceptable. It should be everybody's motto, whether you're a woman or a man, it does not matter. Or any other gender, it just does not matter.
No,
Yeah, I think that's it. It boils down to that because we really make our own culture, every one of us. So
no, it's phenomenal. I feel, I mean, this is a takeaway which I think is so actionable, so shareable. Talk to three other people. And of course, you stand up for it and become a champion for it. Yeah, just talk to three other people. This sounds very, very doable.
yeah, I hope so. But thank you so much, Nakul. I've been blown away by some of the things you've said. I think I'm going to quote you in many places
Man,
because it's
no.
super inspirational talking to you. Because I just think that it's rare to have authentic conversations like this about issues which are so important, and more people need to
Yeah.
have true authentic conversations like this. So many, many thanks for doing this.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn and also vocalize or find words for some of the feelings which I think about, but you probably don't find you think about it, but you don't probably verbalize it or find the right words. But I think you've given me a very actionable plan or an actionable way that I could be part of this conversation, taking it ahead. So thank you for that.
Pleasure. And we shall stay in touch.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Take care, Nakul. Thanks a ton. Bye bye.
Have a great night. See you.